David Trotta. Hi.
Marion, what a treat.
It's just the best. I just want to say before we get into it, I haven't said this to you yet, but when I started to think about doing this podcast and sort of wrapping my thoughts around the theme, and I was thinking about defining this whole idea of success and what does it mean to people, and it means something different to everybody, but and I really wanted to kind of use this as a way to just sort of figure that out. And when thinking about who I wanted to have the opportunity to talk to, literally, David, you were maybe the first person, if not the very least one of the first people that popped into my mind, because
oh, that's crazy. I love that.
It's really, really so true. First off, I need to share that when we did work together, you were just this burst of sunlight every time we got to see each other, even when things were nuts and we both knew we were in really not sustainable situations. It just, being in your presence is honestly, it sounds cheesy, but it's a blessing. And you're one of those rare people that has an energy about you that's infectious. And you're so passionate about everything you do. It feels like, I know that we all have our quiet moments, but you're somebody who I feel like even in your quiet moments, you're passionate and digging in and learning. And I just wanted to share that because I find you to be so, so inspiring. And so I'm really excited for people to hear you talk about yourself and your journey.
It's a hell of a lead in. I hope I live up to all the hype for everybody. That means a lot because there are quiet moments in the journey. And of course, we haven't talked because when else would, two entrepreneurs catch up other than on when someone started a podcast so they can catch up.
That's a good reason. Maybe that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I was like, damn, do I need to start a podcast and go talk to all my friends? So I can check that out.
That's really funny. So I'm going to just read what you had sort of written as your bio, and I will give people an idea. What I love about this is it's so you. So I want to give people an idea. This is David Trotta. Quick sort of high level. David Trotta. He is the founder of Whealth Kitchen, which is in Jersey City, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And the coolest thing about Whealth Kitchen, before I don't want to go too off a tangent because I know we'll get into this later, but you're sitting above it right now, correct?
Yeah. We're in Journal Square, the section of Jersey City. There's a big commuter transit station here. Got a great little view going. And one of the first, so I've lived in Journal Square for quite some time, and I was giving a talk on the future of food, randomly in a room that I still don't know why I was in. And at the end of, I just I don't know. I used to put myself out there quite a bit more, and now I kind of feel like I'm in the dirt a bit more. But yeah, I'm in this room, giving this talk about the future of food, and a guy comes up to me. He's like, "Oh, do you know this building, Journal Square, that's getting built?" It's you want to open a cafe in Jersey City? He's like, I have a space for you. And I was like, yeah. I literally walked past that, the construction site today on my way to give this talk. And
wow.
Here we are 10 years later. I moved into the building when we opened the cafe, and it's been pretty awesome. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
That's so cool. No, it's so cool. Right there, you sort of stumbled into this situation, and now you live in the building that you're. This is so good. All right. Okay. I got ahead of ourselves. Sorry. Okay. So David Trotta of Whealth Kitchen and Afternoon Acres, which we'll hear more about later. And here's the bio. Love personal growth through professional discipline. Don't always get that one impeccably right. Big family man. Family overall. Deeply interested in the brain and how it really works. What the bleep disciple, Taoist at heart, and when I remember to be. Bam!
Wow. Okay, I actually did a good job on that.
Yeah.
That is very much me.
So good. So good.
Where do we even start with that? Right?
Tell me. You know what I'd love to start with, David?
Oh my God, I'm crying. That's hilarious.
I
Yeah,
hope you
please
don't mind.
start wherever you like.
I'm so I would love to hear about where your passion for food and cooking and I mean obviously farming, like where did that all come from?
I mean, I think it's like a multi-layered thing. It's two pronged. You know, my dad died when I was real young. I was 3 years old,
Mm,
and I'm the youngest of three boys. And my mom, you know, she was like working 9 to 5. And whether we were just like reheating something that she made or actually like, you know, putting together some janky chicken parm that was like a frozen cutlet with contadina sauce and like a slice of American cheese. That was a chicken. I still would rock that. It was good. That was like we were a part of putting dinner on the table. And you know,
mm,
I was also just like a chubby little kid that like loved to eat. So we were always like ripping apart the Betty Crocker cookbook on a Saturday morning and like making cookie dough and maybe like eating it before it turned into actual cookies. And like the chubby little kid turned into like kind of like a very unhealthy teenager and, you know, like eating disorders and like years of like bulimia and
mm.
just like some really, really dark places with food. And like that's kind of where like the health aspect, like the love of cooking and like from the heart. And, you know, you can kind of like, if you think about like how I approach cooking and what we serve, it's a lot of family recipes and, you know, not getting like getting serious with the person and their story, but not so much about like, you know, we're going to like the French laundry, or like we're going to culinary school and it's like this super serious thing. I think some of the best recipes are from some of the best recipes are like from your grandma, and she didn't like go to cooking
Totally.
school, and it's just so
Totally.
simple. So
Yeah.
like that's part of it, which is kind of like the growing up and like, you know, it being probably the only place that like my family was like sane. You know, my dad died in a drunk driving accident in my front yard, and like my mom was the first person on the scene. A drunk driver slammed into the passenger side and like killed him instantly. So like
Oh
that
man,
like
David. Wow.
super like shaped my family. And I mean like I would say that the beauty of it is like, you know, none of my brothers and I like we didn't come out of that as like the victim. And that's kind of, you know, the tenacity of just like, oh, like, yo, we'll figure it out. You know, we were that like weird family on the block. Like, are you three boys, all 5 years apart, and like a mom like out working, trying to like figure it out, and then also just trying to like find herself. And like, you know, we had a lot of time at that house to cause a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I mean, like that, like my the food and cooking as I got older, you know, became more about just kind of like healing myself and it's I feel like I go through the phases of absolutely tearing myself apart and then like, you know,
Mm,
kind of needing to come back to zero with like food and, you know, find myself again. And, you know, my 20s it was with the super unhealthy relationship with food. I was really heavy,
mm.
you know, growing up, like, and you know, I turned to some dark places to get rid of that, and then you know, it turned into fitness, and that's kind of like, you know, I
Right.
was actually on the treadmill today thinking about a Barry's class. I remember like running around the city with you, like, we got to try all the classes, David. We got to see what these people are doing, you know? And I was thinking about a Barry's class you and I took together. And like, you know, then it was fitness.
Yeah.
But like the health thread always through it is like, at the end of the day, I don't necessarily have time for all the fitness, but if you know, eating a really good, not necessarily like diet, but just like eating really good food
Hmm.
is like more than, you know, 60, 70% of the battle.
It's so
Obviously, you can't
true.
overeat and get crazy, but you'd be surprised how much you can eat if you're actually just eating your own cooking and it's, you know, like a good quality.
Yeah. It's so wow, thanks for sharing all that. My gosh.
There's a lot to
What a
unpack.
wow, what a you were three. Oof. Wow. And I didn't know that you have two older brothers.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine your mom. Wow. So it's so, thanks for sharing all that. Cause I often say, and this is just a thing that I feel, our relationship with food is the most intimate relationship we have because it's like
Interesting.
we're literally ingesting it, right? We're literally putting it inside ourselves. So it's like when you share that, it really hits me hard. Like if you're, cooking your own food, you're nurturing yourself, right? You're like taking care of yourself and you're aware of what you're feeding yourself. And that's just so important. Like it's so important. And to hear that what you've been through, sort of the roller coaster with it all, how now it sounds like you're obviously in a good place with it, like you have a balanced relationship with it. But
I would
how
say ish,
you're a
it's
dad now.
still, oh, like, yeah, yeah. Try not to, I mean, I definitely just think about trying not to like pass down any like weird foodism kind of things and try to talk. I'm aware of it and I'm thinking about it. So I feel like at least in that space, there should be, it should be better than like, what it's not my mom didn't do anything like
Right.
wrong. It's not like she said any certain things. It's just like the culture that was kind of around in like the 80s and 90s was much much different than is now. And I just try to preach balance to my son.
Hmm.
I think convenience is one of the things that kind of like kills everybody,
Totally.
because like I run this meal prep company. I have a cafe. I have access to like literally the freshest, best food, probably like in the area. I mean, like we had dinner last night that I picked, an hour before like we had it, kind of stuff. So like, but when I'm busy, through COVID, I got super sick. I was diagnosed with Crohn's, ended up in the hospital with an ulcer because, I'd be working all day, drink coffee all day, would like drive up before I had the farm I have now. I had a property that was like 3 hours away. I would just like work all day,
Mm-hmm.
barely eat, tons of coffee. And then I would like come home at night and order an epic amount of takeout,
Mm-hmm.
and like, yeah, like, and just eat and then go to bed and just totally destroyed myself. But from that, for the most part, have worked that back without like medicine, where, I was in the hospital, had this abscess, and the gastro guy was like, "Oh, you're going to be on medicine." But I was like, "Yeah, but I don't understand because if like if I walked, like I spent 4 days in the hospital, like had nothing to do. I like walked back the past year and a half of like how this built up and when it happened and like the factors, and how could not changing the inputs into my stomach not change like the outcome?" And like,
Right.
no, well, it's just too advanced. We're gonna have to do. And when I finally got the colonoscopy, they were like, yeah, like you had some stomach ulcers, like it's like you're like this isn't necessarily like normal, because I think doctors are afraid to. I think they're afraid to actually talk. I mean, first off, they're not trained in nutrition. Maybe they
No.
take one nutrition class in med school. I think it is. Don't quote me on that, but I
Yeah.
think that's like what it is. But it's not. It's not like they're not trained for that for the most
No.
part. And
Hmm.
I think most people won't really actually stick to the thing, so it's just safer to like prescribe some kind of like band-aid thing. But yeah, I like there's the gastroenterologist that I work with and my primary are both like, okay, like we'll to help you monitor the blood work, but they're not necessarily like into the idea of me not taking medicine for it. But
So how are you? Like, are you able,
I'm
have you
good. I'm
been
good.
able
I'm
to?
good. Yeah. I had a colonoscopy like 3 months ago, and it was not like, oh, there's some really red flags and we're going to need to. They were like, yeah, it looks like you have scarring from some past ulcers, but, in general, like things are in really good shape.
Wow.
Which was,
Congrats, man. That's awesome.
yeah,
That's
like
awesome.
super, super awesome. But at the end of the day, I know that it's like 1 month of like crappy eating, not sleep. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. Got back from the hospital, totally locked down. I've always been a big fan. I think this is one of the things I put in the questions, like what are some of the big breakthroughs, or it's like the power of saying no. Like I've always been such a big fan of like, hey, are you coming like to do the thing? I'm like what time does it start? Like 7? Woo.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know. Not sure if I'm gonna make it.
Right.
I value sleep, privacy, and like just like the peace of mind that comes with not running around frantically, like trying to keep up with the Joneses for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and also, I mean, it's amazing the power of saying no when you were told to take these medications. You listened to yourself and you listened to your body and you took care of yourself. Like that's super powerful. It's not easy to do that.
Yeah, I
For
mean, I
everyone.
started strength training, made sure I was in bed by. I mean, there's times that I go to bed at 10 or 11, but it's super rare. I'm in bed at
Right.
8, 9 o'clock. Like I go to bed before my son. Like it's like in the summer, I'm going to bed still light out, and like I don't know, I'm totally down with like the 4 or 5 a.m. club. Like go to bed early, circadian rhythm,
Mm-hmm.
keep everything. And I feel like life, it's interesting. Like it's something that I always wanted and tried to achieve. Unfortunately, I had to have like my whole life fall apart and have it had to be like a solution. But I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, sounds like there's, it's so cool hearing you share all this. And thank you so much because it's like, there's a, you clearly are somebody who you allow yourself to kind of break down for a moment in order to properly rebuild. Like you have that. You are like you learn from yourself. You clearly don't just settle. You might like screw something up, but you're like, okay, what can I do better now? Which
I
is
was thinking
really
the only reason I'm still in business is because I get it right just a little bit more than I fuck it up.
that's that's
Are we
so
allowed to
good.
curse on here?
Yeah, we'll figure it out. That's so
Sorry.
good. Wait, so tell me more about or tell us more about Whealth Kitchen and the name. By the way, I want everyone to understand who's listening is WHEALTH. So
W Health.
yeah, so how'd you come up with that?
I just honestly like I feel like it came to me one day. I was it just kind of clicked one day,
Mm-hmm.
and here we are. I don't know whether I was running or I was like I definitely was under intense pressure in a work moment, and that's when like the good things kind of come to you when you need them to.
Yeah, and like how? What's sort of the ethos of it?
I mean, the original like definition for the word wealth was the sense of community you feel like when gathering, with people. And then
Mm-hmm.
it just obviously it's like over the years it's just kind of boiled down to community is more the thing. When we worked together in the past, my role was essentially to like systematize community. And I never thought I wanted to have my own place, but once I realized you actually could just break the like it's literally just it's you could break it down into like actionable steps on how you like can connect your staff and like guests and like really create something special. And it takes work, but it's definitely systematizable and like actually caring. You can like systematize actually caring.
So tell me how that works at your place. Like, is that people who come in every day? You know, what is that? What's community mean?
Community means, I mean, it means just like caring about the people that come in the door as
Mm-hmm.
as best that you can, and like actually caring what you know about them. They're having a bad day. You're, making them some chicken soup. You see something happen online that like you could celebrate. You celebrate it with them. It just
Mm.
means you kind of ride the ups and downs with them. It means you hand out like hugs from the line and you walk out and you just like it. It just means actually like caring about the people and not using it as like a marketing thing of like we're the community thing and then like really like you're just writing like
Right.
like funny sayings on a cup like that like don't mean anything to people, but like you actually like know deep down like what like who the people are and like what they do. And I think it's challenging. It's more challenging at scale. I think everybody wants to be the next Uber Eats of like whatever it is. And really like you could have an awesome, really small business that makes, I mean, we're not like millions and millions of dollars, but like you could do really, really well for yourself and your team, and like a small group of like 10 to 20 people could take a very long, healthy ride with you. If you just thought more long term, not necessarily like short. Sometimes the long term thinking, like the farm you and I were talking about the other
Yeah.
day, it seems a little bit crazy, like when you really like crunch the numbers on it in the short term, but like the other things that it does for the team and like who we are. If it's a break even, it's probably like it's okay.
Right. Yeah. It's what first off, I started laughing because of the writing messages on cups. It's I had to say such a pet peeve of mine. I was like, please,
Listen, here's the
please.
deal. I'm having a rough day, and you give me a fucking cup that says, like, you got this. I'm like, no, I don't fucking have this. I'm sorry. Like, I don't feel good right
I
now.
know.
If you actually knew me, you wouldn't give me a cup that said, you got this. You would be like,
Yeah.
here's a hug or something. And it's just like, oh man, at least put 5 cups out and like try to choose the lid that like might actually represent me. And that's what I mean. Like that's like fake community.
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, it's just so funny that you brought that up because literally just the other day went on some rant about a message on my cup. But putting that aside, I you mentioned our conversation the other day, and when we did get to connect, you had talked about enough and how you've been thinking about that, what that means, like what
Oh,
is
it's my favorite.
enough.
Yeah, it's my favorite story.
Yeah, and
Can I
like
reach you
hearing.
want? Can I reshare the story for your peeps?
Please, like this is the best, and it feels like that's kind of a little bit what you're talking about right now. When you talk about the farm, and you mentioned, what's scalable, what's not. Is it what we're doing now good? Like, please go into it. What is that
Yeah, it's
enough?
interesting for you to see it bird's eye and like kind of say that that's like I'm kind of pulling everything through that lens. Um, yeah, so enough. I look like a fucking like look at like this is like the opposite of enough. This is like excess to the max, and it's a city. Like that's what it does. It's all good. We're trying to smash a bunch of people in here, do a lot of cool things. Cities are important, but the thing that cities do really well is just make you think you need all the things
Yeah,
and that you've got to keep going and pushing. And I think tenacity and grit and pushing and like trying to achieve the best things is a good thing. But when it comes at the expense of your health and your mental stability and your family life, maybe that's like not the best thing. I think
mm,
there's trade-offs. Obviously, hopefully you grow your thing and you learn a lot of your lessons in your 20s before you have a big
right.
family and you get some more time with your family. But like it is what it is. And I think enough is this idea that like we don't even, that's like not even a concept that we think about. And my like my entrance into that was like totally classic. Like I bought a piece of property upstate. It
Upstate New
was,
York,
yeah,
upstate New York,
upstate New
right?
York. Yeah, I bought a property upstate New York, and I got 8 acres, and I'm going around. I'm like meeting. I'm like DMing all like the local farmers on Instagram. Like, oh, I'll be at the farmers market. I can't wait to meet you. Like, and I get to the farmers market, and I think that I'm gonna be like the savior of this area. Like, oh, I'm gonna buy all their stuff. This is awesome. And that's because, like, listen, a little bit closer to the city. If you're in the Hudson Valley, like, where I was upstate, they would definitely consider where I am now kind of like the driveway to New York. Like
Right.
Orange County, if you're 3 hours out, like, and then you're talking to somebody about Orange County, they're like, dude, that's the city. Like, relax. Um, So like those farmers are much different. They do have an abundance, and there is a certain point where they're like, please, we got a good deal on something. Could you take it off? But these smaller farmers way upstate, that farmers market, they don't have a ton of stuff. So I go to the farmers market and I'm like, I'm gonna buy all their extra stuff. This is gonna be awesome. They're gonna love me just like the two farms that or like maybe like the one farm that I happen to be working with. And just I happen to have this very unique relationship of like, we have a bunch of carrots. I'm like, yes, I've got you. And like even just thinking that is so stupid. Like, so I thought I was gonna be, the savior. And I go to
Right.
this farmer's market and I'm like, I'll take the bacon. And they're like, here you go. I'm like, well, it's like a 1 pound package. Like, where's the rest? Can I come? Can I get more? And they're like, no, we don't have any more. It's just, that's like what we have. I was like, what do you mean? They're like, no, like, that's it. Like we raise a pig, we take what we have for our family and we sell the rest. We make enough. And I was like, it was
Like,
it was a changing moment in my
yeah.
life. Yeah. I got sick, like the whole like hospitalization, right after that. And it all just, it shaped
Mm.
how I, reopened the company after COVID, just how I viewed everything, moving forward was so different after that.
Wow, that's such a cool moment. Like, I can just imagine this guy
I
just
was
like,
so
this is
pumped.
it. Right? Like, what?
It
Like,
was a woman. She was not, and
a
she had a
woman,
little
she's
more of
right.
that, like, yeah. And I just felt like she had a little bit more of that, like, she's not from the South, but that Southernly, like, come on, dude, like, bless your
Right.
heart, like, but really, like, you idiot, like,
Right. How
you
much
city boy.
bacon? Yeah.
Yeah,
That's such a great story. And,
I did become like the follow up is I did become good friends with them and had breakfast with them, and they're like we were super cool. Obviously, we're friends, but I was not the savior of Schoharie County.
I
They didn't
love
need
that.
saving. What a
It's,
surprise.
it's so good. And I even love like that you come in thinking that you're going to be the savior and like, you're so quickly like,
With what?
what?
I'm saving the county with five. I'm going to buy 5 pounds of bacon once a month. Like, it's like so stupid. Like, so stupid.
So I'm
They're going to
sorry.
love me.
You're
Like,
like,
it's like, it's so dumb.
and I'll get them on social media and the
Yeah, I'm
whole
going to tag
thing.
them. Yeah, it's like, they don't care.
So, okay. So now you've got this, what's going on with the farming? I obviously am like obsessed with you on social media in the dirt. Like, what are you doing?
So, the farming end of it, there's this like real funny thing that kind of happens right around now. Like, farmers have all the things. They are like, please, I have kale. Like right now, it's like we have peaches. Peaches are $10 off a case. Take as many as you want for the next month. Please help us sell them. But literally, the first frost happens, and then that all goes away.
Right.
They probably still have cases and all sorts of things in the back that they harvested right before that, but they totally cut you off. I need to. Well, sorry.
Go ahead.
Bye, buddy. Love you.
Oh,
Yeah,
bye,
so they
Wells.
have like
Wait, how old is Wells again?
Wells is 6.
6. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh, this
Yeah,
is
so
his
they
last
kind of
weekend.
he's going
School
into first
starts.
grade.
Yeah.
Couple of days.
First grade's the best. Okay.
It's nuts. Yeah, so like you kind of get cut off, and I just always like first off, vegetables in the Northeast in the winter are like they're not really like a thing. It's like we have seasons. So there is kale and stuff that's grown, but it's mostly like root vegetables and things. And even like our growing season, especially where I am in the Hudson Valley, is like zone 6, 6A. I'm like the worst. I don't even know the zone. But it's here's the deal. It's fucking cold in the winter and the ground
Right.
freezes. And literally like tomatoes don't really start until the middle of June, the end of June. Things really get going. This summer was the worst. I had the worst tomato harvest except for my sun golds. Anyway, you kind of get cut off. And but I know that they had greens themselves all winter. So I'm like, okay,
Wait, I need to ask you
maybe,
quickly. Can I pause for a
please,
second? Why
please.
was it a bad tomato harvest? I'm just so curious about that.
It's just like kind
Was
of a
it
weird start to the season. Typically, like June wasn't super hot. It was kind of on like the cooler side of things. And like just the tomatoes didn't really get a chance to. They didn't get like a hot, dry spell
got it?
until like July, and then like once August hits, it really starts cooling off at night. I mean,
Yeah,
think about it. It's been kind of like really
yeah,
nice at night for like the past 3 weeks, and tomatoes really want it to be hot at night and to be hot all day to kind of
they
like
do.
grow.
That's so interesting. So, a
And
successful
I
tomato.
actually don't. I'm not amazing. Like I don't know that much, but that's my experience with tomatoes on the field in 4 years. Because I mean, even though I have 5 acres and there's a tractor and I drive it, and I guess I'm a farmer. Like I'm like so like I'm like the farmers in the valley. They're like, "How's your garden doing?" Like it's like it's the same. It's like the same. It's the same kind of energy as like the farmers market thing. They're like, oh, you're growing garlic. That's cute. Like it's cool. I feel like I've always dealt with this. I enjoy that, and it's probably like my weird, like fucked up, like childhood trauma lens on the situation, and they're really like just not saying it that way at all.
Right, right. You just are seeing it that way. But yeah,
A
you're a
100%.
farmer. You are a farmer. And
Yeah.
I interrupted you because I'm not a farmer. So hearing you talk about tomatoes, I'm so curious about that. So thank you for thank you for teaching me about
I'm just
tomatoes.
a
But I interrupted you. I'm sorry. You were
No, you're good. I'm just a
okay.
student of life. Like you do something, it doesn't work, you think about the variables, and then like hopefully you do it a little differently to the positive. And
Yeah.
like that's all that farming has been, that's all that business has been, that's all that life has been. And the
Did you
power of
ever
no
have
helps you juggle them all.
yeah. Yeah, it does. Did you because if you can't say no, you're not able to move on to something when it's just you're right. It's a huge key to it, the power of no. That's a great point. But did you ever like do it? How'd you learn? Did you just throw yourself into it? Just
So I ran I worked at like, do you remember Frank's Nursery and Crafts back in the day in like the 90s? And maybe it wasn't like a Long Island thing. It was
no.
like essentially like Michael's meets the Lowe's outdoor center kind of like vibe of a store. And I ran like their horticulture thing in like my late teens and early 20s. But like, like I wasn't growing anything there. That was the
Right.
only experience. Did some landscaping with a friend, like some odd jobs. But yeah, no, I honestly would just, I worked, so I leased 5 acres from Blooming Hill Farm. They've been
Hmm.
up there 45 years, the Jones family. I mean, like one of the original Union Square Farmers Market farmers, really cool guys. And I met them when I was working at the Harrison in Tribeca for Amanda
Right.
Freitag, like years and years and years ago. And they would always talk about the farm, the farm, the farm. And I'm like, what's the farm? Like, I want to go to our farm or whatever it is. And she's like, all right, I'll set it up for you. So I drive up, I go to Blooming Hill, and I spend a weekend there. And this is almost like, this got to be like almost 15, 16 years ago now. And, I cleaned the greenhouse, and I like met Guy Jones and his family. And, I just always kept the relationship open. If Amanda did a dinner, I would go up and do it. Once I had my own company, I went up and did a dinner. I started buying vegetables, but I always kept the relationship open. And, I had bought that property where I thought I was going to be the savior. And it was just too far away. It's 3 hours
Hmm.
away.
Mm.
And that's just not like in the amount of time that I could drive to Chester where I am now
Right.
and harvest and come back, I couldn't even get to my other property.
Right.
So I was driving back from that, picking up stuff at Bloomin' Hill on the way back, and Guy Jones was like, "Yeah, we're gonna like lease land." Like he's like he's not like a hippie, but he is kind of like a hippie. We're gonna like lease
Yeah.
land to people. He looks like Santa Claus, like the greatest guy ever. We're gonna lease
Awesome.
land to people this summer, and like you could like camp on the black dirt and grow like grow community. I was like, wait, I was like, you're gonna lease land on the black dirt? I was like, I'll take a few acres from you. And I like hounded him, and him and his son picked out a plot for me, and he's not on the black dirt as much anymore. I kind of deal with his son,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, we took 2.5 acres the first year, and then we added last year, year three, we added a second field just for growing squash. And it's just, everything's been a little bit of a test. Like, the year two, we planted pumpkins. And like, I was just amazed that scattering a handful of pumpkin seeds and raking it in at the right time turned into this giant 100-foot like pumpkin patch. So I was
So
like,
cool.
okay, if I took another field, I could do that over a bigger area and kind of let it take over the field and
Mm.
see how that works. So that's what we've been using this second field as like a squash field. And it's easy, like if you put it in at the right time.
Hmm.
I could just like just ride my tractor around and pull out a couple of weeds, and it just kind of at a certain point it's like taking over the whole half of the field now. And like the
Wow.
two squashes and pumpkins connect, and it's just turned like 100-foot, 200-foot rows of plants turn into like almost an acre worth of squash.
So are you the like head chef at Whealth Kitchen?
I'm currently the head chef at Whealth
Yeah.
Kitchen as well.
So how, okay, so you're the head chef. So and next question, the produce that you're growing, are you using all of that at Whealth Kitchen?
Yeah, we use all that. I mean,
Hmm.
like we don't sell any of it. It's
Right.
really hard to. I think that's some of the learnings over the past few years of like starting the farm. I initially thought that we would do events up there like once a month, and it would be this like event space, and like you're in a field. Like I had to have an outhouse. I'm like cleaning friggin' like the RV toilet. Like after the first season, I'm like this is the worst. This is not
Yeah.
farming. I'm like
Yeah.
maintaining an off-site space without electricity other than a
Mm.
generator and like a hand crank pump like water thing. It's like the worst. Um,
But
so
you
it's
tried it.
slow. Yeah, I
You
tried it,
tried
and
it.
we still do events. Like our developer here of the building, they'll grab a bus and pick up three of their buildings at once and bring like 50 people up, and we'll have lunch on the farm and do like a tour, and then make little like herb gardens for people to take back for their window.
That's
So like
amazing.
there's like events and things that we can do up there, and it's led to me partnering with the local coffee shop that has like an event space on like the farmland, and we'll do their events and be like their catering. So it's that's like a much more sustainable like way to do it. They
Right.
actually have a bathroom, and like running water helps helps.
Yes.
But yeah, like the farm, it just slowly evolved, and where I was caught up trying to just like it's just like everything, I always ride the spectrum of like enough or like below enough to like way too much and like everything for everybody. And like, probably now it like teeters around enough, like around the enough, but like and not
Right.
at too much the ends of the spectrum. And that's how the farm was. I started wanting to have like a CSA and do the farmers market and all these things. And it's
Hmm.
like, it's so much work. And this year I've been practicing the art of intelligent or like respectful neglect with the farm, which is like, you know, do the rows need to be like perfectly manicured? Probably
Right.
not. Like, do you need to pull all the weeds so that like the carrots can grow properly? And like that one part that you missed, are you just gonna like harvest that first? Or are you gonna like put hours and people behind this thing that like you're just gonna harvest next week and it doesn't really matter?
Right.
And
That's so
like,
interesting.
hey, maybe you get really busy and you got to deal with some staffing stuff at work. Um, and you can only get out there like once or twice a week, or maybe once a week during the high season, and you're buying greens from your neighbor.
Hmm.
Like, and maybe you buy greens from your neighbor until your plants are more established, so you don't overpick it and like stress out the field
Hmm.
and spend a bunch of time doing work that like just doesn't yield enough. And it's okay that you bought stuff from your neighbor. Like, first off, no one gives a shit that I'm growing vegetables in the Hudson Valley. No one knows. And like everyone thinks that like the little green like farmhouse that's on like whatever like packaging thing that they get is the exact same thing that I'm doing. So I'm doing so much work for like only a small percentage of the people that like buy from me probably truly understand like the high quality level of food that they're getting. And I mean, that's part of my challenge as a business owner is to like, the more that I can get people to understand that, I'm sure the better things will be for me. But at the end of the day, people are just generally confused about this topic.
Well, yeah, I mean, although that does lead us back to where we were, which was you educating people, though that I'm using that word, you didn't by any means use that, but we were kind of talking about what you're doing on social media, showing yourself in the dirt, like that kind of, I'm wondering if that's part of this is like showing people what's in what they're eating and the what you're doing behind the scenes. Like, is there a connection there?
Yeah, I started like a new series where I'm doing like voiceover over B-roll so that I can kind of talk through those points a little bit more. Um, during like part of my social media presence used to just be me like talking to the
Yeah.
camera, and I just after COVID and how like polarizing social media can be, I just don't feel. I feel like everything that like you say, especially in such like a hot topic as like food and nutrition, is like, oh, you don't get, and just like, I'm like, I need to take some time, step back, and figure
Hmm.
out how to be pointed and opinionated without sounding, too preachy. And like the easiest way is to just share the story of what we're doing. So I
Yeah.
started this like little series that's going to kind of break down those things. But yeah, I generally think, if people see green packaging, I always use this example at work. We have plastic wrap, and it has this like green, like just band on the packaging. And I was always like, this is like the it's plastic wrap. Like,
Right.
it's the same plastic. It's like literally probably rolls off the same thing as like whatever the Reynolds It's the same thing, but there's
It's
like green
green.
on it. Yeah. So, I just think in general that is the public's, outside of the people who are like specifically looking for what we are doing.
Hmm.
Most people are like, oh, cool. Like Sweet Green, like Wealth Kitchen. It's like the same thing, right? I'm like, well, not
No.
quite.
Right. And does your are you getting any feedback? Like are people tuning in? Like how's that been going?
I mean, I just launched the first episode of that yesterday. But
Amazing.
in general, the more that I share, like the more that I share stuff, like the better. But here's the funny thing: I spent probably like 7 hours like editing this thing and making it amazing. And the thing that I made about a peach smoothie and like just me going live and being like a goofy person like at the cafe has like 5 times the views, and like it's the same thing, it's the same thing over and over again. And I was well aware that all the effort was probably going to be not as productive as just like a simple live about something, but they're both sharing the information. One is me talking about peaches and smoothies, and I mean peach smoothies are that's a
Uh,
hot topic.
yeah, it's a good one. I mean, it's interesting though. It makes me think hearing you say that, like the excuse me, peach smoothie gets lots of attention, whatever, and the story that you know has what we would probably feel has more substance and knowledge and to share in it doesn't necessarily get as much attention. But keep coming back. My thoughts are coming back to your sort of idea of like the long term, like you're in it for the long haul, and it feels like, yes, this series may not have the instant gratification of a peach smoothie,
I'm
but there's
I'm gratified with it, and like
exactly.
it's there were things that I could have sat and done more to it, and like I have always been in the mind, at least as of late, with content that like okay, you can spend another day and it might turn into 3 days, like to edit it because like you're gonna maybe edit it, but then it waits to the next morning and then like you can't because the thing, and then it's like it's a week. Or you can just put it out and like the thing that like that you should have changed, you're gonna change it in the next one. And it's
Right.
better to get it out and just like get it going. I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said episode one. Da, 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 da. I should have just gone right into this cut. And it's just like, who cares? Guess what? No one cares. Like,
Right.
and at the end of the day, I think if you go, it'll be a great piece to go back to once there's other elements with it, but it doesn't matter. On to the next.
So do you have like a vision? I know that's a big question. Obviously, you're very like in the moment and it can change at any time. But do you have sort of a long-term vision for what you're working towards?
Oh, like the overall, yeah, to just keep playing the game, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And have that be easier and, to be able to give the people that want to work at at the pace and the level that I like to work at, keep them around me, and take really good care of them. And also like be okay with like wanting to just like work at that pace and that level and like enjoying it and like not feeling like judged by other people for like, oh, you work on like I don't work all the time. I used to work 100 hours a week in my 20s. Like I have a 45-hour schedule and like, okay, so I spend my free time at a farm with my son, but like it compared to what I used to do, I feel like it's obviously like the brain never gets to turn off, but the longer
Mm-hmm.
you're in the game, the smarter you are about things, you know, the more your brain should get to turn off. Hopefully. I just want to keep playing, and if there was something to kind of pull that through, is like I would love an event space with farmland. I think that would do really well for us with a kitchen that I could run. Like I would rather run production like at the farm and have a great group of people up there because I think we could get a better product out. So it's like move closer and closer to the product. Like if we had a kitchen in Chester, like we could harvest the morning of and then like you could be getting stuff within 24 hours of harvest. And that's kind of like that's the
Wow.
closer I can get people's food like to like at scale, like at a small scale, like I'm talking
Right.
100 to 300 families that like, go in and out of like rotation ordering from us could make me and a lot of people like a very comfortable life.
That's so what that is so cool. That is
It's not
so
a lot of
cool.
people. We're in like, look at,
No.
I mean, there's like 25 million people. There's
Yeah.
not 300 families
Yeah.
that would like, get delivery from us in our area. I don't believe that. And I think everybody's so busy on like, we got to corner the market and like all the things that like, I think it's nice to just not have to think that big and just to think about like, how can we make the quality and the experience? Like we're always tweaking at the shop,
Mhm.
trying to make recipes better, trying to source better ingredients and just trying to get better at our craft.
Yeah. Yes. So good. Getting better at your craft. I love it. I love too that like your craft is so much more than just cooking. That's your craft. Yes. Excuse me. With your staff and at the restaurant. But like you personally, if you had to tell, yeah, actually, I'm curious. What would you say your craft is? What are you like when you say that, like sort of mastering it, nailing it? What is your craft? Because I know it's more than just cooking, clearly.
I mean, it would just be like the getting better at the iterative, like, just getting better at iterating
Yeah.
constantly and like updating yourself. Like that's all it is. Cause I'm down to try anything because like everybody sucked at the thing in the beginning. So as long as you're not trying to be like, and I mean, even if you were trying to be the best at something, chances, I mean, I'm not going to be a football player. I'm big enough to be a football player, but I'm probably not going to be a football player. I'm 43, and
Right.
I think I missed my opportunity. But like for the most part, most of the skills that you would want to learn, if you just sat and you like worked at it a little bit, you could probably be pretty darn good at it.
Hmm.
And I think that in managing people, really getting people to understand that like really everything that you want can be broken down into actionable steps, and
Yeah.
like then it's a conscious decision whether you take that step or not, and it's totally on you. Like you can attack anything, and I think that's the hardest thing that I see people that I manage with struggle with. I'm just like, oh, I don't know, like what. It's like I'm like so overwhelmed. Like, did you like we have this tool, like we break things down between conscious decisions and like an unconscious decision, or like a conscious skill and like an
Yeah.
unconscious skill. I'm like, if I have to teach you to be a barista, and I want you to make really good drinks, there's a very big difference between you can make a good drink and we can get it out to a customer, and like you're making like the most epic latte art, and you can manage a rush of like 30 people.
Right.
And
Right.
that's like a skill we're going to grow. Or like, did you clean the bar in between drinks is like a conscious
Right.
decision. And those are like, you can break down almost everything into like a group of conscious decisions that you can make to get you there a little bit better. And that's
It's it's so true. That's what it all comes down to. I mean, that is like so beautifully said. And I've actually I've never thought about it as conscious versus unconscious, and that's so spot on. Which I mean, like I have to ask you, you know, because I know family's so important to you. Like you've made that really clear, especially like in the when we spoke earlier and in the questions that you answered, which were so awesome. And you mentioned family a lot and how important it is to you. And I'm wondering, like, and you mentioned bringing your son to the farm. I mean, that is like, I can't imagine how fantastic that feels for you as a dad. So,
I feel like
yeah,
I wonder whether he is excited about the shows we're gonna watch on the way. He's like excited to go to the farm. I think it's a little bit of A and a little bit of B, but I mean, I always talk about like, oh, I wanted to have greens for the shop through the winter, but it's definitely 50-50. Of the farm is 50% wanting a place to get him out of the city. My
yeah,
mom always used to say to me when I was young, if like I had a lot of trouble as a kid. I was like, like in and out of mental hospitals, like, but it's because it was the 90s, and they were like, oh, you're like, you feel depressed. Like and I was like 250 pounds as like a 15-year-old. We're going to
mm,
give you this like adult dose of Prozac. So
right,
I was on every medicine that you could think of. I was an um, absolute mess, and I got through all of it. And at the end of the day, my mom was always like, if you were able to just kind of like run free in the woods, I don't think you would have like encountered all that, because you would have just been like able to figure out yourself and just do your thing. So it's like there's this little voice, like it's my mom in the back of my head saying like, all right, a young boy just needs to be able to like run around and like explore things. And I grew up in the burbs. We had like a garage filled with a ton of crap, and you just go in and like tinker and like like
right,
mess around. And Wells has the back of the greenhouse to do that in. And
yeah,
I mean, he's been up there with me since like I just saw a picture of him, like he was like maybe like a year and a half, like planting potatoes with me at a friend's farm. He's been at our farm planting garlic, since he was like 2.5, 3 years old. And he's kind of grown up with me up there, and it's there's a lot of things that can do. I can make him work. He can get money if he wants something, and we're at a store and he's like freaking out. And like, oh, well, it's not that he's like normally freaking out, but if he asks for something in the store, it's like, all right, well, you were on the farm, like you saved half your money, you got this, you can like get the thing. And sometimes I'm like, I don't care, you have money, like you don't need to buy everything. Like you're a kid, you don't need money to save your
Right.
money. It's definitely it's a double edged sword teaching a kid that much responsibility at 4 or 5 years old. He's like, well, I have money, Dad. And I'm like, all right, this is backfired on me. Right. New framework, new framework. Like, you don't need money. You're a kid, even though you work. Like, that's what parenting is, right? Like, and that's what business is. And that's what life is. For the most part,
Yes.
you're doing something until it breaks, and then you gotta fix it a little bit. And
So
sometimes
that's
you can see the thing before it breaks and upgrade.
so that's like the perfect, moment for me to ask you the question. So, David Trotta, how do you define success?
Just by being okay with enough, Sometimes you are and sometimes you're not. And in the moments that you're good with enough, and enough for everybody is going to be a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Enough for somebody might mean something that is like completely insane for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. But like at the moment that you're comfortable with your current situation, so long as nobody in your family is like dying and you can pay all your bills, and no one's going to the hospital and you're not going to jail. Like, I think like if you're there, like that's you can pretty much go anywhere from there. So that's a good place to be.
That's so awesome. Thank you for that, because it's interesting to hear somebody else's enough could be completely different, bigger, more than yours. And that brings me back to the thoughts of you talking about the power of no. I know for myself, I've been involved with other people's journeys where the enough was so far beyond anything that I would ever want to strive for, and in trying to jump into those people's journeys, it's never worked for me. I wasn't able to say no. I mean, I've learned, my own lessons, and like now, and if I had been able to have said no, it would have enabled me to get off that track earlier and sooner. So because I intuitively knew like that I'm good with what I'm good with. I don't need all of that, which again, to your point, it's not a judgment. It's like everyone's got their stuff that they want in life to strive for. So it's really great to hear you share that the way that you just put it, because that combination of the power of no and knowing what your version of enough is like, that's a powerful equation.
Yeah, if you can keep playing the game, whatever that game is, that you're like, and that might be the game of I like a 9 to 5 and hang out with my family on the weekends, and like just the I've got the basic necessities covered. That's totally fine. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think sometimes the enough and all my farm stories come off that like, I want to have a homestead and I got chickens out back, and yo, that would be totally awesome, but I do generally know that like I want to have a company that's doing a few million a year, and like we're halfway there now, and that like that if I manage that properly, like I can do some, like I can have a good life for myself. I can make sure that like my family's like set and well off. And I could pretty much do anything that I can imagine, and like that'll be like really, really cool. And like I'm fine with that.
So good. Awesome, David. Thank you so much for taking the time. Obviously, even though it's all enough, you do have a lot going on. So I really appreciate you jumping into this, and I'd love for you to share where everyone can find you. Any information
Yeah.
you want to share, go for it.
I'm on Instagram. You can follow the company Kitchen or the real David Trotta. That's where I kind of like post everything, and then our farm's up there as well, Afternoon Acres.
So good. Congratulations on all of this. Like, you've just created such a beautiful life for yourself and your family. And I'm so happy to be reconnected. And obviously this is why I started a podcast. So I can reconnect. Yeah, it's so good. Thank you, David.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for letting me talk about myself for an hour and 10 minutes.
It's so good. It's so good. All right. I'll see you soon. Maybe we'll do this again sometime in the future when you've got even more enough to share.
Hell yeah. Let me know when you're in the city, Marion.
Definitely. Bye.
Bye.